Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, 2024 Online Ordering Trends for Convenience Stores, sponsored by Paytronix. I'm Danielle Romano, Managing Editor of Convenience Store News, and I'll be your moderator for today. We'll get started in a few moments, but first, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. The materials in this webcast have been reviewed by our editorial staff. However, the views of the speakers and their organizations are their own and do not necessarily reflect that of Convenience Store News or its publisher, Ensemble IQ. One of our goals is to make this session as interactive as possible. You can use the Q&A function located on the left side of your screen below the presenter headshots to ask questions throughout the webinar. I'll hold these questions until the end of the presentation and pose them on your behalf. Your identity will remain confidential to the audience. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will follow up with you after the session ends via email. You can also use this section if you have any technical questions about the webinar itself, and you will get a direct reply from our webinar producer. At the end of the event, we'll have an evaluation survey. We encourage you to provide feedback using this feature. If you wish to review this webcast or share it with your colleagues, a replay of it will be available within 2 hours on many platforms. And now, on to today's presentation. Today, online orders only account for single-digit percentages of all orders for convenience stores. However, this market is expected to grow significantly ahead of 2031, making now the time to capitalize on this trend and become a market leader in your space. I'm joined today by Jeff Hoover, Director of Strategy and Analytics at Paytronix, who will show you how you can take your convenience store business to the next level with actionable insights and real-world examples of successful online ordering implementations. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Danielle, and great to be here with you all today. I'm going to jump in here. We're here to talk about, I'll start off by saying there's a lot of things we could talk about with online ordering. It's changing by the day, the week within the convenience store industry, and new capabilities are coming available. It's becoming more pervasive. C-stores are learning how to do it the optimal way. I think in that respect, restaurants had an advantage. They were receiving phone calls, right, with call ahead orders, and they were used to sort of fulfilling that order and getting it ready to go for that customer. In convenience stores, that's a new thing. And combined with the employee turnover, it's not exclusive to C-stores, also has restaurants, but I think that makes it, challenging, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about operations and, the focus on team members a little bit later. But again, this is an evolving topic. There's lots of things we could talk about. We're going to focus on the things we're typically talking about with our customers and clients today. So with that said, in terms of the agenda, these are the things we're going to cover today. So we're going to talk a little bit about online ordering, sort of the status of where it's at within the C-store industry and some of the metrics we're seeing indicating the powerful sort of value it can bring. We're going to talk about the KPIs that they see are the most important. And there's a lot of metrics out there and they're evolving, and I'm sure others will come up, but we'll focus on, there's 8 of them that we really focus on primarily. And then we'll talk about managing channels and optimizing your tech stack, and then using AI and other best practices, and talk a little bit about some success stories we've seen with some clients in the C-store industry. So with that, I'll move into the first part here where, I guess, we all know, right? COVID really accelerated the adoption and the thought process around how important online ordering was for C-stores. I gave a presentation just a couple years ago in 2022, and I shared this adoption curve, which is not exclusive to the C-store and online ordering here, but if you've seen it before, it's sort of people accept sort of new technologies at different rates, whether it's from a consumer perspective, or in this case, we're talking about C-store retailers and how they're looking at online ordering. But a couple of years ago, it was really just, on this left side, right, the enthusiasts, the visionaries that were, more leading into this and implementing, maybe some of the pragmatists. But I think now here, a couple of years later in 2024, I don't know that we've reached the peak of this adoption curve, not to say that any conservatives haven't started thinking about it and adopting, but it's really becoming more pervasive. And I think there's other things that sort of drive the importance of it. And you'll see this in some of our success stories, right? If you have made to order food service products and things that require a consumer to wait, in addition to how you fall on this curve, right, that might accelerate some things for you versus a retailer that maybe doesn't have a made to order food service offering. that might not be as critical to their business today. Now, that said, there's still third-party marketplace we'll talk about as well for those center store items that don't require weight, but you can really grow your sales potentially outside of the consumer set in your store by going into that third party. But yeah, I just wanted to share the adoption curve. I think hopefully, this is accelerating much more. I think, there'll be a lot more of the conservatives and skeptics getting on board here going forward. But again, we're still in the early phases, even the ones that are executing, the volume's not there. There are some success stories we talk about. The volume's not there where it will be probably in 3 to 5 years from now. So moving forward here, I want to talk about some of the metrics. So customer lifetime value, it probably goes without saying, but when you put it on paper, it makes it more real, right? So we're seeing with our customers that an in-store and online ordering only customer is much smaller in terms of the lifetime value that they present for the brand. In fact, we're seeing when we can get a customer to use both of those channels, the CLV can grow upwards of 35% based on the data we're seeing our customers. And that's a big deal, right? We obviously we do a lot of these kind of metrics where we look at the value of different segments of customers, whether they're registered members versus unregistered members in a loyalty program, or in this case, looking at those people that are participating directly with your brand, and then in the online channel as well. And again, this will continue to grow over time with the CLV, but even now, we're looking at nearly $800 difference there, right? And a 35% increase versus those exclusive to one channel sort of customers. So a big value to sort of push people into these multiple channels. And it's not just about the average lifetime value that we're seeing with these customers. There's other really strong metrics that are sort of laddering up into the CLV. So we see that the average frequency of a customer is not quite double. I think it's about 70% higher than even an in-store only customer. And getting up to that 5.62 orders per 90-day period is what we're looking at in the time frame here. And then also the bigger point here is like the retention. Not only are we getting them to come more often, we're retaining them more when we look at month-on-month retention at a rate of almost 20 or a little over 20 percentage points higher than in that in-store only customer. So I think what we're seeing here is that what makes that CLV higher is like, again, higher frequency, higher likelihood for them to keep returning, which means more visits and a higher build of CLV. We do see, and again, we have, we're not have tons of data here, but with the online ordering and in-store customers, the order subtotals tend to be slightly lower. I think that's normal for like restaurant brands because there's tipping and alcohol and things like that. But even in the C-store world, we are seeing that. Obviously, maybe not as much driven by tips and things as much as it is by gas and other products they're buying in store. That they're sort of impulse buys when they're in there like that. But even though it's a lower average order, again, frequency and the retention are really leading to great overall impact on the CLV. So, this is just some of the data we're looking at to really, create the business case for clients to really look at, hey, it's going to cost us and some time and some money to build these platforms, but the value it means to our customers and what it means to engaging them more and retaining them and driving that lifetime value is a really strong story. I want to jump in a little bit about KPIs and talk about some of those KPIs we focus on and sort of the process by which we look at developing those KPIs. Assessing KPIs with any initiative is a big deal, but especially in a new one where we don't have commonly referred to benchmarks like we do with loyalty in terms of the participation rate and things like that. So we want to really think about this new initiative and how do we align with the organization from the team members in store to the leadership teams on what success looks like and what we're going to measure and what's important to us. Talking a little bit more about that in terms of the KPIs, let's see. So the things we want to talk about here are sort of in the process of setting this up, and whether you already have a program or whether you're setting up a program. I think these are the good questions to sort of ask yourself in terms of how you're performing with online ordering. How are we doing now if we've already started, right? Are we in the early phases? How are we doing over time? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Are we holding steady? These last couple are really important, I think. Like, look at your competitive set out there, whether it's, restaurants or other C-stores providing online ordering, and what does great look like? Survey your customers. Maybe you can find out what sort of some of those other things are offering out there that really are doing a better job at sort of, providing a better experience potentially in other channels for those customers. and really defining what great looks like. And then I think most important, when we get into these things, there's all kinds of different improvements you can make, but it's really the process of being very deliberate about understanding what's going to provide the highest ROI. Maybe that's an internal look at this is going to really enhance our profitability, or maybe that's an external look as well, right? Saying, hey, we have to have this feature because the competition has it. I shop Wendy's and McDonald's a lot. I think they're really good leaders in online ordering. They do a great job at driving great offers and free products. If you're in a market where you have a made-to-order food service offering and you're competing with those, you might want to think about those free items in there. And that gets more into the offer strategy and things like that. But those are things we'll get into later. But at any rate, you need to think through these questions. You need to establish benchmarks and then evaluate those changes over time. In terms of some of the key KPIs that we focus on, and again, there's probably others here, but these are the ones that we tend to rise to the top and we're really focused on. So around order completion rate, and we'll get into each of these a little bit individually. The ones on the right, the order completion rate, average feedback rating, month-on-month retention, online ordering loyalty penetration, I think are the ones we tend to prioritize and focus. The other ones are a little bit secondary, not to mean they're not important. They are important. They're on the list here of the 8 we have, but orders per store per month. I mean, you might not eventually, right? We want to get scale, but at first it might not be about getting to scale. It might be, hey, let's keep it sort of low so we can train our team members and develop a good experience before we're confident enough to really push and drive it. So that might be not something you start right away focusing on, but over time, it's going to become important. Frequency, we talked about. Guest acquisition rate, we'll get into that one a little more, like really using, like if you have a loyalty platform, and you have strong participation there, that's the best customers you can go to try to drive them in. There's also ability if you're doing third party to transition them into first party, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then average check size. We saw that it tends to be lower with some of the data we have, but it's something we want to monitor and try to improve over time and grow. And we'll get into some ways that you might use AI and other segmentation to help drive that check size up as well. In terms of digging into some of these a little bit more, so order completion rate, I'm sure anyone who's running online ordering is looking at a completion funnel of some sort. We're sort of looking at the total orders when someone opens the online ordering experience, right? And then what's the drop off from the phases of adding the item to the cart, and then checkout viewed, and then completing that order. And this is just one example. But it's a critical KPI. It helps give you a good lens into how your customers are sort of flowing through that process and where there's opportunities for improvement. Maybe, going from total orders to items in the cart is, lower than our benchmark. How could we improve that? We look at potentially, maybe it's a better presentation of offers. Maybe it's implementing best categories. When I come in and I like coffee, we're featuring coffee as a common item or order history, and making sure that it's easy to sort of get people to add things to their cart. And we can sort of think about each one of these things and how do we optimize for each of them. And, once we have more data within the C-store, and we have some benchmarks now, but we're trying to develop more benchmarks to give, well, one is the right sort of percentage drop off in each of these ones. That is a good benchmark, and how can we improve where we have gaps versus the competition. But this is the one we look at first and foremost to sort of make sure we're optimizing that order experience for customers. Average feedback rating is critical. And, this is our real data, and it was in our online ordering report. You do see that C-store is a little lower than FSR and QSR. I think that sort of highlights what I mentioned earlier. Like, this is sort of new to C-stores. Not sort of, it is new to many C-stores, right? And in the experience of not only customers, but the team members delivering an optimal experience. And with a turnover and people in line and other things happening in the store, we have to make sure that, we look at to improve this over time. But it is approaching that 4. We hope to get it up to, we hope to see it and continue to improve with what the QSR and FSR sort of metrics are on this area. But again, dive into the ratings on each question, analyze the qualitative responses, do all these things that we're recommending here, and then make changes based on those weak spots. Again, this gets into some of the areas that might inform what you need to prioritize in terms of all the things you could do. What's the most important to your customers and relative to the competition. But average feedback rating, a big important KPI that we need to focus on for C-stores especially. And then month-over-month retention, where this is a metric where C-stores actually are doing pretty well. I think this is driven by the newness of the people that are using C-stores for online ordering. If you're looking at a Wendy's, say, versus a C-store, right, you're going to have a higher percentage of your frequent customers in Wendy's probably using online ordering than you do in C-store today. So you tend to get those high customers, which ends up, equating to sort of higher retention. But again, this is something we want to monitor, not always relative to FSR and QSR, but more importantly, relative to how we're improving over time and what our benchmarks are for C-store. And again, with all these things, we're sort of showing metrics, how they relate to different industries, but we will be working on benchmarks. So, you can look at within your industry, how do you really improve upon that? And then online ordering loyalty penetration. So I really want to talk about this one because, one of the big challenges with C-stores is creating the awareness and driving the actual number of orders and scaling your online ordering platform. But if you have a loyalty program, we're really encouraging our customers and helping them help segment those customers. If someone's never ordered online, how do we get them, acquire them? If they have, how do we grow them to order more and use data to try to increase their online ordering loyalty penetration, their overall sort of behavior? So this is critically important. I think the ways to do this, you offer exclusive online ordering value to loyalty members as a program layer. You can establish like a life cycle campaign approach where we're looking at, low frequency customers and high frequency customers differently again, or looking at those people that have never ordered online and tried to push them in. And just a persistent stream of offers that are really driving that customers that you're already engaged with and are marketed with in your loyalty program into online ordering. So this is a key one to sort of watch, and we monitor sort of what percentage of our loyalty customers orders are attached to those loyalty accounts overall, and continue to build that over time. I wanted to spend, and if anybody has questions, I should have said this up front. I think someone else spoke to it, but if you have questions, feel free to post them. If I don't have a chance to answer them in stream here, we'll sort of revisit them in the end and spend some time with some Q&A on those. But the next section on here is talking about sort of online ordering channels. And I think it's important, to leverage both first and third party platforms. So we see here that first party really is very popular during the day, but in those evening hours, that third party marketplace really tends to pick up. I was listening to a webinar recently, someone else talking about online ordering and talked about these peak hours, or when a lot of, maybe not 8 p.m., but middle of the night is when a lot of these, grocery stores and other channels aren't available. So this is a great channel, a convenience channel, obviously, for those third-party marketplaces to be able to add on, CPG items or other things, proprietary items with convenience stores to those other restaurant orders. But a great opportunity to sort of, again, we're trying to drive the number of orders up. So leveraging other third-party sources can help drive those customers in to your system and really increase the overall number of orders that we're seeing. And then as we're sort of attracting, we're casting a wider net, right, into third party and attracting those orders, we want to convert them, right? Because ultimately you want to own that customer relationship. You want to capture that data and be able to better market to them. We've seen some really cool tactics here with clients maybe in the, that are packing up, your team members packing up a store for the third party, DoorDash or whatever, right? And a little sticker on the bag, it says, hey, next time's order direct, with a QR code or a link to the first party order site. So I really like the idea of third party, but ultimately our goal is to try to bring as many of them as we can over to being first party and direct. So we have the data on them, we have the relationship, they become marketable members directly to us, and we can segment and grow behavior over time with them. And then, talking about the ideal tech stack, I mentioned loyalty, and obviously you don't have to have a loyalty program and platform to be able to run online ordering. But again, we see great success with really using loyalty programs to drive, awareness and drive orders into the online ordering platform. And, obviously you want to focus on, operational efficiency, that better data collection analysis, and again, continuing to improve those online and ordering experience over time and enhancing those training and support processes. And then wanted to get in this to talk a little bit more about use of AI and use of segmentation. There's lots of tools we're sort of using here to help drive that personalization. The key things, a couple things I want to focus on is that like the AI-driven personalization. So in our loyalty programs, we're often running a lot of segmentation on a best category or a person's next likely category, and those are great ways to sort of cross-sell and upsell customers in their check if we know them as a loyalty customer, and we have those AI-driven segmentations available to them to sort of, and we'll get into a little more, ordering more, increasing check size, and things like that. Automated feedback response is a great tool. We actually have implemented with a few clients as well, where if someone has a negative response, we can automatically generate an AI-driven response and potentially attach an offer to that as well. That looks like it's coming from a real human, but is automated in a way that makes it very efficient. And we actually see not only does it make a person not have to manually go in there to respond to that, we see with automation in great response rates, and I think it's upwards of 30-40% increase in those return orders when we're sending them something to make them feel like they're heard and give a response based on their potentially negative experience. On other things, there's AI enhanced order efficiency and things that more of the tech setup and how do we sort of use some of that capabilities, and then data-driven AI optimization, a lot of the segmentation and stuff I talked about earlier. Again, how do we use AIs in different part, whether it's building the optimal experience or it's giving us segmentation that allows us to better market to these customers and grow check or grow trips, which we'll get in here into a little bit as well. So tips for driving increasing order frequency. I talked about some of these before, but we have tons of segmentation available. I mentioned best category, next likely category. We have segmentation that gets in the person that they have ordered online, they haven't ordered online, they've ordered once, twice, or more. And we can segment customers based on their behaviors within the loyalty program or their behaviors within the online ordering, or both combined to help deliver offers. And maybe there's a customer that only comes in and has an online order once every couple months. We might want to create daily deals for that customer through online ordering, every day in the month of June, $1 off your online order, X% off your online order, versus a customer that's coming in and ordering weekly or even more frequently. We might not want to be as aggressive with them. So again, combining with loyalty and combining with that profile of that customer, we can better understand how to market to them and use some of the same tactics we have success within the loyalty program in this online ordering. In this case, use it, kind of take that low frequency customer, increase that order frequency. Is a great example of that. Mobile optimization, this isn't necessarily the segmentation side, but how do we continue to iterate? How do we look to our competition to look, and what we do have with the most mobile friendly designs? Is our app really achieving the usability? Talk to your customers, survey your customers, and find that feedback or anecdotal from your team members. How can we improve that experience and constantly iterate on that? Marketing campaigns, not just segmenting campaigns, but you have to drive awareness and keep it top of mind. Someone might order once or twice, but it's not top of mind, maybe like a Wendy's or a McDonald's like that. So, we really have to think about, whether it's emailing our existing customers, using in-store messaging, or broader awareness vehicles, using out-of-home radio advertising to really make sure that, you're driving the awareness and inviting people, right, to come and experience it. And then review management, always addressing practically those one-to-one responses. This is a little bit of that, AI potential to have automated responses, but that requires some human intervention and monitoring as well to make sure that, it's providing the value and the incremental behavior that you want, but you're also using it to sort of how do we optimize the experience over time and take that feedback. But just a few examples here how we can, help drive awareness, overall order frequency, as well as individual order frequency under that segmentation approach. And then boosting average check size through upselling. We have a restaurant example here. And again, C-stores aren't restaurants, but some are restaurants. And we have some success stories I'll highlight in a bit here that talk about, some of our clients that were really restaurants before they were a gas station. Personalized ads and offers, knowing your audience so you get the right person to the right offer. We can take that high frequency. I mentioned the low frequency customer and a daily deal offer for a month of June, hypothetically. we could then, look at a high frequency customer and say, well, maybe I can't get them to come more, but maybe I can get them to buy more. So we could do something like next likely category, other menu clustering, as an example here, the burger brand, right? Where we're segmenting customers a little bit differently and trying to find some of those people that, again, we can't get them to come more, but we can get them add on next likely category or give them other incentives to build their checks over time. Menu clustering, that example is there with the burger brand, where they sort of looked at their segments of food customers, whether they were, meals or sides or vegetable items, and really use that to offer unique campaigns that were delivering relevant offers to those customers and relevant sort of awareness. And they saw over 60-time ROI with that approach and avoided some of those missteps, as it says there. And then strategic item pairing. We have next likely category, but I'll use other AI-driven tools to say, well, if a guest is continuously buying sort of a slice of pizza or a full pizza, and they haven't tried salted snacks or, a packaged beverage or something, how can we sort of recommend those ideal pairings, whether it's through next likely category segmentation or other AI-driven tools to help boost either specific category sales or just boost that average overall check? And then, this last section, I kept this, and was sort of thinking about moving this operational focus. I alluded to it a little bit front, but I think it's honestly one of the most important, things that we need to talk about, because it's new to the operators that are used to running C-stores and, pushing people through self-checkout, or doing prepay at the pump. And it's a line of customers coming to you versus now we really have to think about, and it's broader than what's on this slide, but you're introducing new responsibilities to these customers in an environment where some customers are challenged in, with some of the basic day-to-day things. So, and at the end of the day, you only get one chance, right, to have that quality experience that'll make a customer want to return versus a negative one that says, hey, I'm not going to try that again, kind of thing. So, but you got to think about, how do you staff appropriately? Is the volume reached, or even before the volume is reached, in an effort to have a good experience, should we have a team member, at least at peak times, that's going to be pre-packing orders? That's going to, or where are we going to, put those orders? And someone sort of at least semi-dedicated to that versus, we've heard anecdotal things out there. We have one customer of ours actually has curbside carryout. And, when they launched it, they would ring a bell inside and someone was supposed to go take that order out. But again, these people were busy with people in store, and oftentimes they were having the customers get a little frustrated with the wait and come in and pick it up themselves. So again, we have to think about, the tech stack. We have to think about our offering, if it's right for us and it's when, but most importantly, we have to make sure that we're delivering an experience to customers that allows them to intake that order and fulfill that order to the customer in a really positive experience way. Because if we don't do that, we're not going to get that return visit. We're not going to see the scale that we need to see. And there's, lots of other things. I mentioned curbside carryout. You don't have to do that, right? But that's an option. Wawa's out there and, very leading with that at some of their locations, at least out east. So it's something to consider, but maybe not something that you start with. Even if you have customers walk in store, is it going to look like Chipotle with a rack there and it's packed with their items and their names on ready to go? What's that experience going to look like, and making sure your staff's set up for success for that? Again, this is an area where, we could spend probably a full hour on just talking about and hearing other things. Would love to hear questions around this, or if you guys are doing this, what you're doing in the comments as well. I'd be happy to comment on those as well. And then in terms of success stories, a few of the brands we work with are having, really strong success here. These have been published things that we've shared out over the time, I believe, in the market, whether in the online ordering report or other materials. But, Twice Daily, they optimized their experience and had a new app sort of experience and increased, made the online ordering experience better. And they saw a surge in 225% monthly order size surged in orders of 225%, and then order size up 55% with a new app in their loyalty program. So again, these numbers were coming from a smaller scale, but they're seeing growth and continue to see that growth. But again, they're focusing on that mobile experience and the delivery of the product to the customer. Pump and Pantry, another great example, that online ordering at one point reached 20% of their sales, and they used drive-through and curbside options. And again, really focused on making sure that was a great experience for customers, to be able to like make sure they were, getting happy customers and they were returning back for that. And then Rudders, this is an example of we did a speaking engagement with them a couple years ago, or this was last year. And what they really highlighted in their brand is like they're not a gas station first at all. They have this history of a dairy and a restaurant, and they're much closer to when a restaurant is than a gas station. They're sort of a restaurant that also has gas versus a gas station that serves food. But they've seen great success and great volume, and loyalty members they've done a great job also with their loyalty platform, right? They have a high participation rate on that, and they've really leveraged that to make online ordering even more successful. And now they've actually seen that the loyalty members generate, over a third of their online orders, and the average check size with those increased by over 10% as well. And there's smaller players as well. There's one on our online ordering report we highlight, Filling Co. that they just have a few stores out in Virginia and the Washington D.C. area, but they're well advanced. They're seeing upwards of almost 2,000 orders per store per month at these. I think it was 1,800 they cited. So again, some great success out there. But again, it depends what I think your offering is. A big part of it is, I think, at least with first party, do you have products that people have to wait for? I think and I know we're all sitting here and, looking toward the future, and we're going to have food service. Having made to order to be able to compete going forward is going to be critical. And I know those that don't have a strong, proprietary food service program are working on developing those in a lot of cases. But if you have items that require wait, we want to be more convenient. And online ordering is a tremendous way to make that more convenient and quicker for customers, so they walk in store and pick up an order instead of walk in store, place their order, and wait another 5 or 10 minutes for it to be made. Maybe that's exaggerating. So huge opportunity there. But again, to reinforce, even if you don't have the proprietary food service, I think the third-party marketplace we're seeing is especially been fruitful for customers with more center store items and moving those through there. In fact, we had one client talk to us. They had actually the highest sales of their Ben & Jerry's ice cream was through third-party marketplace orders in like the 2 to 4 a.m. range, when people weren't able maybe to drive to get their snack craving. But I think you have to think about owning the proprietary first party and leveraging marketplace to make sure you're casting a wide enough net so you can get as many orders as possible. And make sure you're doing that in a deliberate way and not growing it too fast, so that the experience you're delivering to customers is going to win them back time and time again. So that was sort of everything we had here today. I'd be happy to revisit any of those areas. If you have questions, I do see we have maybe a couple questions in the chat as well. Happy to take others as well, so feel free to post those.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. That was a really insightful presentation. I especially liked you. I think you nailed it, that food service is so critical now to convenience stores, and especially moving forward into the future. I know I sat in on a presentation at NATSO earlier this year, and one of the speakers said that she predicts that convenience stores are basically going to be operating almost as restaurants in the next 5 to 10 years. So food service and hitting this online ordering is really critical. So thank you for all of your insights. Again, to the audience, we're going to begin the Q&A portion of our event. So if you do have any questions, the Q&A feature is on the left side of your screen. If we do run out of time before getting to all your questions, Jeff will get back to you privately with the response. So let's jump into some of our questions. Jeff, a question came in around loyalty integration. What strategies can we implement to better leverage our loyalty program within our online ordering system to boost customer engagement and repeat business?
Yeah, I think the optimal tech stack there is, where you have, your rewards, loyalty, CRM sort of program in the same sort of app and online ordering experience with your online ordering piece. That allows you to just be more seamless with that customer and be able to leverage the data you have on them and the segmentation to be able to just be a lot smarter about how you're marketing to them and how you're growing. So I think, that's really critical to sort of consider. Does that answer the question, or is there other what was the other part of that? I'm sorry.
Strategies we can implement to better leverage our loyalty program within our online ordering system to boost customer engagement and gain repeat business.
Yeah, I think it's using those segmentation tools, right? Once we have that depth, and not what we don't want just their online ordering history, right? We want to be able to connect that customer with their in-store activity in the C-store world, so we know their behaviors here, and we can segment to them, right? We can say, like, if this person has never ordered food service items, we're probably going to have to be more aggressive with that person to get them to try an online order. Maybe with that customer, we segment them and we give them half off their first order because they've never done it, or they've never had that item or the things we offer. So versus a customer that's ordering food service regularly, it might just be awareness. We don't need to offer them something. So I think when we can connect that history of their in-store activity over time and the other data we might have on them, it can just help us be much smarter about spending the money effectively versus giving out everybody half off for the week or something, right? We can be smarter than that. And I think stacking those and connecting those allow us to do that.
Right. All right. Another question that came in is, how can integrating online ordering with in-store operations maximize customer lifetime value and improve retention rates?
Yeah, I think we talked about that in that early slide in terms of the lifetime value that an online ordering customer and store customer versus the others. I think we have to continue to monitor that, and I think it's important to drive people into different channels. It extends your brand, right? Like with convenience stores, it's sort of an industry versus restaurants we talk a lot about. It's a little bit of a more passive customer. They're, the average customer is just looking to get gas, and maybe they're looking at the price of gas and making a decision there. But, you really have to then, drive the awareness of these things a little bit harder with that customer and deliver a great experience for them. So I think, that's the approach I guess I'd take on that.
Okay, great. Another question: what would be the best approach to micro segmentation for a retailer just starting with loyalty program?
I think we look at sort of a lot of life cycle messaging. We're talking more just broadly loyalty, I think here is the question if you asked it that way. We want to understand as much about a customer with every transaction we have. And, we have a one-to-one, we have sort of a phase where they're going through nurturing and joining the program. For their first visit, we're not able to be very segmented, right? Maybe it's a free drink, but once we have a visit, we see what else they buy. And I think as early as you can start using that behavior, not maybe to try to change their behavior overnight, but maybe you see that I got a free drink and then I also bought a bag of chips. So it can be sort of acknowledging that sort of piece, whether it's showing those items when you send emails to them or sending them offers for things like that. With nurturing, it's how do we get a person, we really think about how do we get a person to the third visit as quickly as possible. So if I, say a person got 1 or 2 visits and we're struggling to get in that third, if we can look at that segmentation of what they bought on the first 2 and have a very aggressive offer for something we know they like versus just a blanket offer that we're guessing, I think that's where we can really make a lot of impact early. So it's never really too early after the first or second visit, I think. Obviously, with more over time and we, have, say 10, 20 visits over several months, right? We're able to get a lot smarter about who that customer is. And are they a low frequency customer or a high frequency customer? Are they fuel only or fuel driven or merch only or merch driven? And then develop segments for each of those. But again, you don't want to get too proliferated too early. Because you need some depth of that profile before you can be confident in the cadence of which they buy things, the cadence of which they come to you. but the more history we get, the smarter we can be about that. But we're running nurturing campaigns where on the second or third visit, again, we're giving a free product to try to compel a person that maybe should have been there by then to their third visit a little earlier by giving them something free they already bought.
Got it. So I think this does kind of tie into your point about giving free products, but leveraging the supplier relationship. So what can suppliers do to help support C-stores in their online initiatives?
Yeah, I think there is a ton of opportunity with the CPG companies and a lot of money available, not only within online ordering, but loyalty in general. I think within online ordering, one a great opportunity to, like, say you're having a proprietary, say you have pizza and you're doing that, and then the common add-on item for that, we know, not based on maybe the personal's data, but overall is a packaged beverage, right? Well, if someone doesn't typically add on, go to Coke, go to whoever, right, and say, hey, for these segment of customers that we know buy our product, but we are not typically adding on an item, would you be willing to fund that? And normally they are, because it's not only they're not just paying for that, we're then giving them data back. So I think to be able to say, hey, did that customer buy it again at regular price once you gave it to them for free and things like that? And we can do sort of journeys and segmentation on them. So we're having a lot of great conversations with retailers on helping them with the right segmentation, right? Like Coke doesn't want to come in and give a free Coke to everyone. But if we could say, hey, this customer typically doesn't buy packaged beverage, that's much more apt for them to be able to fund that. And then for us to be able to show the incrementality that drove based on the post-period behavior of that customer. So whether it's Coke or a snack or candy, whatever, I think the more we can leverage those, we can pay and help that fund a lot of the offers we drive to either build check or build relevance in the offer that we're sending out to a customer.
Awesome. This is something that's become a very big topic in convenience around AI. Could you share other emerging benefits of AI beyond what was already covered?
Yeah. So I work in the area of strategy analytics. A lot of AI we're talking about is like, AI-driven segmentation that learn over time and optimize, right? So, being able to, like sort of understand that low frequency or high frequency. There's a ton of in the tech side though. Like there's a lot of AI thing I think was cited on that slide before around AI to optimize the order experience. Learning sort of where drop-offs are happening in the completion funnel. And it's not an area I work on, but I know our product team and stuff is like, how do we use AI to sort of optimize that and help learn from those things? I think the automated response thing, I know I said it, but it's so cool that you don't have to do anything. And the data shows that it more than pays for itself. I mean, you don't want unhappy customers, but if I have a tool that generally tends to make them happy and it proves a great ROI, then why not continue to do that? I think this is an evolving world. I mean, and we all use the term AI, I think, a lot loosely out there today. These micro segmentations we're developing maybe aren't full on AI. I mean, they are in the sense that machine learning helped build them and that we're optimizing based on AI over time. But I think it's those things. But it's evolving. I think ChatGPT has been great. That's sort of the base, I think, of what we use for automated responses and things like that to build them. It's actually maybe not that, but other tools, but they're just changing every day. And I think, talk to those vendors, look to best practices in the industry. Our product team, as well as myself and our analytics team would love to have conversations with customers that would want to talk more about that.
Great. That's awesome. Let's see. We have one centered around competitive analysis. So what are some best practices we can adopt to enhance our competitive edge?
I think it's about acquiring customers and then optimizing the experience or the delivery of your offers and segmentation with customers. I think you look to your customers, clients, or other competition, right, and what they're doing to drive the awareness into the program. I think, if you're developing your proprietary food service offering and you're competing with the Wendy's and McDonald's and you really want to scale, you sort of need to look at how aggressive they're being and try to, at times, sort of use some of those tactics to acquire that customer in. What was the other part of the question, Danielle? Sorry.
That's okay. Best practices to adopt to enhance our competitive edge.
Yeah, I think it's making sure you're delivering the right value, right? In that you're not over delivering the value to customers once they're already in. You're doing that appropriate segmentation. But I think you have to be aggressive to acquire that customer. I think the data showed the lifetime value, right? $700-800 more. Not that you're going to spend $700-800 to win that customer, but you could probably spend $5 or $10. You could probably give them a free item with a minimal purchase or something like that and be really aggressive, because the food service operators, the other ones, are sort of doing that. And they're doing that because I think they see that in the value. They're not just doing it to compete and win the business as much as, hey, it is proving it works. Even in the next 90 days, that customer's worth, say, $10-20 more, even, and we know what we can spend to sort of drive them in. So I think, again, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, right? We don't want to drive that, the order scale so much that before we have the outright experience for customers, because that's not going to drive the retention you want. But when we feel confident in our delivery and our fulfillment of those offers and our ability to execute, I think we have to be really aggressive based on your market and what you're seeing out there and who your competition is to drive that value, and then use that segmentation to be smart about and not over delivering value where it's not needed and focusing on higher value where you do need to compel a customer. And we have lots of scores. We have a discount sensitivity score came to mind, right? In addition to if we have someone who's not highly sensitive to discounts, maybe we don't have to offer them a discount. Maybe we can offer them a lesser discount versus someone with a very high discount sensitivity score. We might want to be much more aggressive and offer them that half off or offer that free item because we know that person needs that push.
Got it. And there was a question actually that I had thought of very early in the presentation. You had shared, I believe you called it the performance curve, and that was when COVID started and people were really jumping into online ordering. I know I am one of those people that I still wanted to go and get Dunkin' coffee. But I'm still now one of those repeat buyers. Are you finding that it's maybe our shoppers, is it more generational? Like, is there a specific generation that is still staying with it? Or are you finding that it's just across generations, whoever did start doing it is kind of sticking to it?
Yeah, I mean, that adoption curve, where I was present, it was the adoption curve. It's a general, like, whether you're talking about new electronics and, the people that are the, early adopters and things like that are going to try things earlier on. But I think, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think it's from a consumer perspective too, though. I guess I can go back to that. Am I still sharing screen? Is that going back to that adoption curve on here, or we already closed out the presentation? I was just seeing if I could share that. But yeah, so there's I think what we're saying is back then it was just the enthusiasts of vision. They want to be the first one to do it. They want to have it. And it's more to have it just to have it versus the pragmatists and conservatives are the people that they sort of we're starting in, I think we're core into that pragmatist now, but the question there is, why should I start using technology, right? And I think some of these metrics will show us, well, online ordering is important because it drives CLV, it drives higher retention. We get people to do what we drive. So I think we're getting those people now, and I think we're moving the conversation forward by saying, hey, there is data here now to say that it's not just an idea and you want to be a first adopter, but it's actually working. And that's the same with consumers, I think, right? It's we get people that oh, online ordering, that's cool, I've never done it, I want to be the first to sort of try that. Whether it's a Starbucks experience when they started doing the online ordering and order ahead, right? Versus now it's I was at an airport yesterday, and I mean, the online ordering line was 3 times as long as the line, probably because they were not wanting to wait in the regular line. So I think it's an adoption curve from sort of the consumer perspective, but also adoption curve from the C-store choosing to, go into the online ordering space.
Gotcha. All right. It looks like that was about all the questions that we had that came in. So again, I just wanted to thank you, Jeff, for speaking about this, and very insightful presentation. It was a pleasure talking with you. And I want to thank our audience for attending today's webinar, 2024 Online Ordering Trends for Convenience Stores, sponsored by Paytronix. Again, please remember to fill out the evaluation survey that will automatically appear on your screen at the conclusion of the event. So thank you everyone for your time and have a great day.
Thanks.